The air was still as Olivia swirled her wine glass, her gaze drifting toward the ceiling. Dinner was finished, the plates cleared, and our son, Ethan, was happily building his Lego masterpiece in the living room. It should have been a quiet, uneventful evening. Instead, Olivia's next words shattered that illusion. "Have you ever thought about seeing other people?" she asked casually, like she was suggesting a new restaurant to try. I froze mid-sip, the taste of the red wine turning bitter on my tongue. "What?" I asked, coughing slightly. Olivia's lips curved into a faint smile, but her eyes were serious. "You know, exploring other options. Don't you ever get bored?" "Bored?" I repeated, my voice tinged with disbelief. "Olivia, we've been married for 8 years. We have a child." "That's exactly my point," she said, leaning forward. "We've been together so long. Don't you think it might be healthy to expand our horizons?" I blinked, trying to process her words. "Expand our horizons? You're talking about sleeping with other people." Her expression remained calm, her fingers tracing the rim of her glass. "It's not just about that," she said. "It's about trust. Freedom." The words felt like daggers. Trust? How does introducing other people into our marriage build trust? "It's not cheating if we both agree," she said, her tone icy now defensive. I stared at her, a whirlwind of anger, confusion, and betrayal surging inside me. This wasn't the Olivia I knew, or thought I knew. The woman sitting across from me was a stranger wearing my wife's face. The conversation lingered in my mind long after Olivia had gone to bed. I sat alone at the kitchen table, the dim light casting long shadows across the room. Her words echoed in my ears, each one chipping away at the foundation of trust we had built over the years. Freedom. Trust. How could she use those words to justify something that felt like the ultimate betrayal? We had built a life together, college sweethearts turned partners, parents, and best friends. And now she was suggesting we throw it all away for what? A fleeting thrill? The days that followed were filled with tension. Olivia brought up the idea of an open marriage repeatedly, her tone swinging between coaxing and exasperation. Each conversation ended the same way, with me refusing and her retreating with a sigh, as though I were the unreasonable one. One evening, as Ethan played in his room, Olivia cornered me in the living room. She perched on the edge of the couch, her expression softer than usual. "Eric," she began, her voice gentle, "I'm not saying I don't love you. I do. But don't you think it's possible to love someone and still want to explore?" I stared at her, my jaw tightening. "We're married, Olivia. Marriage is about commitment, about building a life together. What you're suggesting, it's not about replacing you," she interrupted. "It's about finding myself, about adding something new to what we already have, finding yourself." I snapped. "You don't find yourself by destroying your family." Her face fell, and for a moment I thought she might back down. But then she squared her shoulders and met my gaze. "I'm not trying to destroy anything, Eric. I'm trying to save us." I laughed bitterly. "Save us? You think this is saving us?" The argument spiraled, our voices rising until Ethan poked his head out of his room, his wide eyes filled with concern. The sight of him silenced us both. Olivia turned away, her shoulders trembling, and I stood there, feeling like a stranger in my own home. The arguments became routine, each one chipping away at the already fragile state of our marriage. Olivia wouldn't let the idea go, and I couldn't bring myself to consider it. We were at an impasse, two people speaking entirely different languages. One night, after putting Ethan to bed, I found her in the kitchen, swirling her usual glass of wine. She stood by the counter, her posture tense, as though bracing herself for what she was about to say. "Eric," she began, her voice unnervingly calm. "We need to talk." My chest tightened. I recognized that tone, the one she used when she was about to deliver bad news. "What now, Olivia?" I asked, keeping my voice steady. She hesitated, her fingers gripping the stem of her glass. "I've already met someone." The words didn't register at first. It felt like she had spoken in a foreign language. "You what?" "I haven't done anything yet," she added quickly, as if that made it better. "But I want to, and I want your blessing." Her confession hit me like a freight train. For the first time, I looked at my wife and didn't recognize her. This wasn't the woman I had built a life with. This was a stranger. You've already met someone, I repeated, the words bitter on my tongue. And now you want my blessing? Are you serious? She set the wine glass down, stepping closer. Eric, please listen to me. This doesn't have to be a bad thing. It's something I need to do. Something you need to do, I said, my voice rising. And what about me, Olivia? What about Ethan? What about the life we've built? This doesn't change how I feel about you, she insisted, her voice trembling. I still love you, but I need more. More? I let out a bitter laugh. You mean more than commitment? More than loyalty? What the hell is more, Olivia? Her face crumpled, tears pooling in her eyes. I need to feel alive again, Eric. I need to feel something. I stared at her, the weight of her words pressing down on me like a physical force. Fine, I said finally, my voice icy. Do whatever the hell you want. But don't expect me to stick around and watch you destroy everything we've built. I grabbed my jacket and walked out, leaving her crying in the kitchen. I didn't know where I was going, but I knew I couldn't stay. The cracks in our marriage had finally split wide open. The night I walked out felt like a breaking point, but it was only the beginning of the fallout. I drove aimlessly for hours, the city lights blurring as my mind replayed Olivia's words. Her need for more, her calm confession about meeting someone else, and the casual way she'd asked for my blessing. It all felt surreal. When I finally returned home in the early hours of the morning, the house was dark and quiet. Olivia was asleep in our bed, her face peaceful, as though nothing had happened. I slept on the couch, staring at the ceiling until the first rays of dawn filtered through the blinds. Olivia wasted no time putting her plan into action. Within days, she was seeing Liam, a co-worker whose name I hadn't even known until she casually dropped it in a conversation one morning. It's just dinner, she said, her tone light, as though discussing a meeting with a client. We're just getting to know each other. I clenched my fists under the table, fighting the urge to lash out. Getting to know each other, I echoed bitterly. That's what you're calling it. She sighed, her patience clearly wearing thin. Eric, this is what we agreed on? No, I said, my voice sharp. This is what you wanted. I didn't agree to any of this. She stood, grabbing her purse. You're the one who said you wouldn't stop me. So don't. I watched her walk out the door, the sound of it clicking shut echoing in my chest. The weight of her betrayal, her indifference, was suffocating. Ethan was still at school, leaving me alone with my thoughts. The silence was deafening. Olivia's outings became a regular occurrence. She'd come home late, smelling like cologne that wasn't mine, acting as though nothing had changed. But everything had. The woman I'd loved, the partner I'd built a life with, was slipping further away with every passing day. I knew I couldn't confront her. She would twist it, make it seem like I was the unreasonable one. So instead, I played along. I kept my distance, letting her believe I was indifferent. But inside, I was simmering. I was plotting. One night, as I sat alone in the living room, the quiet gnawed at me. I picked up my phone, my thumb hovering over Megan's name in my contacts. Olivia's younger sister had always been the wild card of their family. Bold, unpredictable, and fiercely independent. We'd always had an easy rapport, but I never imagined reaching out to her like this. I typed a message. We need to talk. Can you come over? My thumb hesitated over the send button, but then I pressed it. I didn't care anymore. Megan responded almost immediately. What's wrong? Just come over. I need to talk to someone, I replied. When Megan arrived, she looked concerned, her usual playful demeanor replaced with something softer. She stepped into the house cautiously, her eyes scanning my face. Eric, are you okay? What's going on? She asked, her voice tinged with worry. I gestured toward the couch, feeling the bitterness rise in my throat. Olivia's out again. You can probably guess who she's with. Megan frowned, sitting down beside me. I can't believe she's doing this to you, she said, her voice firm. You deserve better than this. Her words were like a balm to my wounded pride. I met her gaze, and for the first time, I noticed something I hadn't allowed myself to see before. Her warmth, her concern, her undeniable presence. It was a spark I hadn't felt in months. The tension between us shifted, unspoken boundaries crumbling under the weight of my anger and hurt. Before I could stop myself, I leaned in, and she didn't pull away. The kiss was electric, fueled by months of pent-up frustration and loneliness. One thing led to another, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I felt alive. Wanted, Olivia found out a week later. She came home earlier than expected and walked in on Megan and me in the living room. Megan was wearing one of my shirts, her hair tousled, and Olivia's expression shifted from confusion to fury in an instant. "Are you kidding me?" she screamed, her voice breaking. "With my sister?" I stood, my heart pounding, but my voice steady. "You want an open marriage, Olivia? I'm just playing by your rules. This isn't the same," she shouted, trembling with anger. "She's my sister, Eric. How could you? And Liam's your coworker," I shot back. "What's the difference?" Her face twisted with a mix of pain and fury. "You've destroyed this," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Everything we built, it's gone." I laughed bitterly, shaking my head. "Don't pin this all on me, Olivia. You threw the first stone." Megan, visibly uncomfortable, stood and grabbed her bag. "Maybe I should go," she muttered, heading toward the door. Olivia turned her glare to Megan. "You think walking out now makes this better? You betrayed me too, Megan. You're supposed to be my sister." Megan paused, her lips parting as if to respond, but she thought better of it. She gave me a brief, apologetic glance before slipping out the door, leaving Olivia and me alone in the suffocating silence. Olivia crossed her arms, her body trembling. "So, what now? Are we just done?" I stared at her, the weight of everything crashing down on me. "We were done the moment you decided us wasn't enough, Olivia. This," I gestured between us, "this is just the aftermath." Her tears fell freely as she turned away, her voice cracking. "I didn't mean for it to end like this." "But it did," I said, my tone firm. "Because of you." She walked out of the room, leaving me standing there with nothing but the echoes of what we used to be. It felt final, like the last page of a book slamming shut. The divorce process moved quickly. Neither of us had the strength or the desire to drag it out. Olivia moved into a small apartment across town, while I stayed in the house for Ethan's sake. The tension between us lingered, but we kept things civil for our son. He was my anchor through it all, the one thing that kept me grounded. Olivia tried to make amends, suggesting we go to counseling or co-parenting workshops, but I refused. The damage was done, and there was no going back. Life after the divorce was a slow, painful adjustment. The house felt emptier without Olivia's presence, but it was also quieter, more peaceful. I focused on Ethan, pouring all my energy into being the best father I could be. We developed new routines, movie nights, weekend hikes, and pancake breakfasts that became our little traditions. Megan and I didn't last long. What had started between us was born out of hurt and anger, not genuine connection. We parted ways amicably, understanding that what we had wasn't sustainable. Over time, the pain dulled, replaced by a quiet resolve to rebuild my life. I found joy in the small things, helping Ethan with his homework, rediscovering old hobbies, and reconnecting with friends I'd lost touch with during the chaos of my marriage. Olivia and I maintained a cordial relationship for Ethan's sake, but the wounds between us never fully healed. She seemed happier in her new life, though I didn't ask for details. I had moved on, and so had she. Looking back, I couldn't regret how it all ended. It wasn't clean or noble, but it was real. Sometimes, that's all you can ask for. Life doesn't give us tidy endings, just the chance to start again. And for the first time in a long time, I was ready to do just that.